just wanna let go. I ain't so low. Speaking on my arrow, but they don't know. Now you see the skin glow, sweet like cocoa.
Hey everybody, it's Benji, better known as Moiciara, and today's video of Black Gay Stuff, we're going to be talking about mental health. Definitely dealing with LGBT, QILLMNOPQRSTI, UWZYXZ. I know I said that wrong, but y'all get the point. Okay, I wanted to talk about mental health because I know as being a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, I've definitely struggled with that. I'm sure a lot of you guys can identify with struggling with that as well. I would say like my earliest years of remember when I was struggling with mental health, of course, being part of the LGBT community, was when I had to be probably like, I want to say in second grade. So I had to at least be, 7 or 8 years old. And I remember, of course, my feelings for boys, and then also going to church and seeing, like, I guess there being no representation. Like, and when I did see something like a representation, like, it was always like a comedy standpoint. Like when you see something on TV, like they're making jokes or saying something inappropriate or whatever about, you know, gay people or whatever. So it makes it like, is this something that I should be okay with? Should I be really living my truth like this? Because if they're making fun of it, how can I feel safe to freely express myself? And I just know as I got older and the more I started seeing things, you know, on TV and people around me, I didn't see it. I didn't grow up in an environment where seeing people that was part of the LGBT community that were, I guess, open or whatever. It was always, like I said, it was either performance or it was comedy. And it wasn't something that was something expressed that could be blossomed and grown into something that could be really, you know, long term, or see a life that could be lived as such. So I think I made sure, the older I got, as feminine as I was, I made sure I suppressed those feelings a lot, because I didn't want people feeling like I was, you know, the elephant in the room. Even though I had no ways about it. It wasn't literally nothing I could do, but hey, you know, it is what it is. Like, I just had to suck it up and continue on living that life. Because people used to ask me all the time, like, oh, you have a girlfriend, or do you like girls, or are you gay? And I used to always like, no, I'm not gay, you know. And I used to get really defensive about it because, like I said, it wasn't something I was seeing that was accepted around me. So it just made it more internally for me to, you know, keep, I guess, beating myself up about it inside, because I didn't want people to look at me and feel like they could make or cast judgments about me that were be okay. Because it's like, normally when people find out that you're gay, they instantly go in with thinking that they know you. And just because I'm gay doesn't mean that you have me picked out. Obviously, I like the same sex, but that doesn't define who I am as a person. That doesn't define my qualities, my traits, my emotions, my being, or whatever. Because when you see a straight person or a straight couple, you don't instantly think that, okay, well, you know them instantly because they're straight. That's dumb, you know. But I think the internal battle I was constantly dealing with as far as in being gay and my mental capacity, like, I didn't come out until, I've mentioned this on my channel before, but I think I came out my junior year in high school, like, officially. Like, people around me knew that I was gay and stuff like that or whatever, but it wasn't like open. Like, my family didn't know. I wasn't comfortable discussing that because, like I said, I come from not a strong religious family, but strong enough. Like, we were going to church regularly on Sunday until I got to a point where I felt like that wasn't the place for me, because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like a church or that particular Christianity, religion, identified what or who I was as a person, definitely growing up. And a lot of people, they think that when you're young, you don't necessarily know your your walk on faith, or walk in faith, or walk to faith, or whatever. And I knew I had a strong belief system at a young age. Obviously, I didn't have it all figured out, but clearly I was young. But I knew early on that that environment wasn't safe for me to like say, okay, well, this is blah 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 blah, like, because clearly you're going to hear someone state something about you being gay and instantly deem you as being is a sin or what have you. So you're being taught that, and you learn that, so you don't feel more safe than you already didn't feel before, when you was just kind of going through the process of your own elimination of, should I speak on it? Is this okay? I don't see this in my reality. How can I walk in this light or in my truth, because I'm not seeing it around me? So you just kind of become real reclusive and don't speak on it, because you just don't want to have to deal with those type of difficult conversations with anybody around you, because a lot of people don't have the language to discuss that with you. They don't have the knowledge to say, okay, well, that's something you want to do, or that's how you feel you were brought into this world, or how you are expected to live your life, and they be okay with it. It comes with all these isms, because there's the AIDS and HIV epidemic that happened in the late 80s or whatever, and people instantly go into thinking that if you're in a same-sex relationship, 9 out of 10 that's your story, that's the life that play out for you, because that's what was at the earliest convenience of knowledge pertaining to same-sex relationships. But back to battling with the whole mental thing or whatever, I think it really dawned on me when I came out in my junior year in high school. Was I also said this before in a video. I don't know exactly what, I think my coming out story, I think it was my coming out story. I might link it up there just so you guys can check that out. But I remember it was my junior year, and my mother's husband at the time, he stated, he was like, oh, that's gonna be Benny or whatever when he come out. And at the time, there was this trans young lady who was trying to go to prom at the nearby high school, and it had made headlines. It was on the news because they didn't accept the fact that she was trans and she was trying to go to the high school prom. So it was this big deal. It was in the newspaper, it was on the news, all that stuff at that particular time. And my mother, I remember her telling me that, and she was really, I could see she was really hurt by that. The fact that this man that she loved was talking about the child that she loved or whatever. And at that time, I was still, like, of course, like in denial. I didn't want to express those thoughts and feelings with her, because I was just like, well, no, that ain't going to be me. I was defensive about it only because, those circumstances weren't going to be me. But the fact of me knowing who I was at that time, that was going to be me. I just didn't have, like I said, the language to express that. So we had to write a paper in my English class about something. And I remember talking about, the LGBT community, like all that stuff. And then, of course, I incorporated, me being part of it and stuff like that. And it was such a big deal at the time, because I just remember, like, I remember my teacher, she was very emotional about it. And my class, I think they were like, of course they knew I was gay, but they probably didn't think that I had the words or the language to express myself in that particular light, in that way. Because obviously when you see people being gay or whatever, a lot of, like, when it comes from a man perspective, a lot of men, they just instantly think that you're going to hit on them. They think that you're attracted to them instantly just because you gay. And there's a lot of men I don't find attractive. A lot. And But yes, I just think that was the moment I had that aha moment as far as my mental capacity, as far as in not wanting to care or continue to carry that burden with me, because I'm like, everybody else able to do what they want to do and live their life and their truth the way they want to. Like, do I really want to be these people around me who are constantly like living in a shadow form of themselves? No, I don't. I want to be honest. I want to be truthful. I want to be able to walk in the room and be myself and be accepted. And if not, I can be okay with that. And I can continue to move forward and not allow people's judgment to get the better of me. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of bad days when I don't feel like there's equal opportunities presented because of who I am and how I identify, but that's just a part of learning to accept the reality of, once you open that door and you don't allow yourself to go back, you have to be willing to, stand in front of those situations and those adversities when they come in front of you, because there's always someone wanting to make a judgment of your character just based off of your outer appearance or whatever. And you have to figure out in your mind, like, how can you really accept yourself when you're constantly trying to, I guess, appease or satisfy those around you who are casting judgment upon you. And I just remember prior to my junior year, like, and coming out or whatever, like, I remember like struggling so bad. I think like maybe my 6th, 7th grade year in high school. I mean, not high school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade or whatever. Like, those were some very trying years for me. Like, cause I knew who I was. I knew how I wanted people to look at me, but I couldn't express that. I had nobody around me that was in that light that could have said, oh, okay, well, that's, your story, so I'm okay with it. I didn't have that. And it made it extremely difficult because I had to suppress. And then when I finally did, I think when I finally first met my first like gay friend or whatever, like, I was like, okay, finally somebody that I could latch on to, because they kind of get it, But did that make it easier? No, it kind of didn't, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, I had to figure out my own walk of life. Whether we were friends or not, I still had to like pull and hold on to who I was and what I wanted. And it made it easier to have someone to communicate with, but at the same time, I still wasn't living out loud. So it didn't. So then that was another thing that it's like, there's always stages, I think, to coming out or, being accepted. A lot of times, once you figure out that you're gay, 9 out of 10, if you don't have the support around you, you either do two things. Either you become DL and that's the life you decide to live, you don't, or you suppress until you're able to support your being of what you feel like you identify as or whatever. Because if you don't, your parents, your loved ones can kick you out, and now you're either out in the streets, you don't have the support that you need in order to continue to live in your truth. So thank God, I guess when my parents seen those earlier stages of me being feminine, like, they didn't give me those type of ultimatums. Like, I'm sure they struggled with wondering, like, oh, why doesn't my son have a girlfriend, or why isn't he introducing us to a young lady or whatever. And it was because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't, because in my mind I knew that wasn't going to be the walk of life or faith that was for me. And I knew I didn't want to be blatantly lying in their face like, oh, this is it. And I know a lot of LGBT people who do that. You know, they live this life of having a girlfriend or whatever for so long, and then once they finally muster up the strength, they come out the closet with. But that just, I couldn't do it because I just knew that wasn't right. I didn't want to lead a young lady on in that capacity, because I just knew that wouldn't be right. I want nobody to do that to me, like, ugh. So yes, but I would say, like, finding yourself first is always the most important. That will guide you on your journey with your mental health. And I say this because, I say this because I feel like when you don't, or when you haven't accepted who you are, it really becomes a burden. It's like you're walking through life with somebody on your shoulders that you don't want on there, because you have allowed that to become a part of you. And even though once you do, and see, that's the thing, like, even when you do continue to walk by faith about the life that you choose to live, you still have those moments of doubt of, like, is this the way I should be doing things? I seen something recently where somebody said that they had been delivered or whatever, and that's a whole nother conversation for another video. But nonetheless, I feel like if you know who you are genuinely, there's no type of way that you can be persuaded to believe that what you're doing in the life you're living is by sin. It's not. You chose this life. This is the life you have accepted into your world, and there's nothing that can change that, because at the end of the day, if you know who you are, you know who you are. Nobody can take that away from you. And that's when I say, like, you have to practice that when it pertains to your mental health. You have to want to allow yourself to know and accept who you are, because then that builds character, that builds strength, like, that builds resilience. When you know who you are, and there's no way that anybody can get in the way of that, then you have accepted this life on earth. You have accepted your purpose. You accepted your moment, because there's so many ways people try to take your moments from you, because they like, oh, well, you're this, so I'm gonna, make you feel less than because, you're part of the LGBT community or whatever. And you have to know, like, your mental strength is one of the most important things. We see it all the time. There's so many LGBT people who have committed suicide. They've been killed. They've been murdered. They've been abused. They've been so many things. And it's because sometimes people don't have the resources or the tools to, get out of those situations, or some of them are in those situations by choice. But I just think it's extremely important to always know your worth when it comes to being a part of the LGBT community and your mental health. Like, you got to know that. And if you have those moments of hurt and anger, you just kind of got to remind yourself. I remind myself so much, because I experienced so many different forms of discrimination, passive aggressive discrimination, blatant discrimination, people just being ignorant because they chose to, because they feel like they want to see me in another form that I can't, or I won't allow them to have that access to me. So with all that being said, I just wanted to kind of get on here and kind of talk about mental health with you guys, because it's extremely important. It's one of the most important things that people talk about in this day and age. I wish earlier, when I was younger, I had the language then, because I didn't. And I feel like a lot of times it did hurt me. It hurt me a lot, because I didn't have the language, or I didn't have people around me to help me with the language. Because a simple what's wrong doesn't necessarily break down that wall of feeling like you have the language or the openness to speak freely about what's going on in your life. It becomes like, when you hear what's wrong, you want to give like a suppressed answer, because if you give them the heavy stuff, that they're not going to be able to be equipped to handle it. So Child, Lord have mercy. But anyway, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your mama, your auntie, your grandma, your uncle, little brother, little cousin, little sister, nephew, niece, whoever. And please stay tuned for more. Thank you guys.